Hi, everyone watching. Thank you for tuning in to Thursday Thoughts at 3. I'm Amanda Bruce, and I'm the Interactive Media Director for NPM. And today I'm sitting down and speaking with Bill Golkelman about piano certificates. So first off, hello, Bill. How you doing?
Hi, I'm great. It's good to be talking with you about this.
Yeah, it is too. I'm so glad that you could take the time today to sit down and talk with me as we finish our certificate series. So, for those of you who don't know, the last 2 weeks of Thursday Thoughts at 3 have been focused on certificates. The first week focused on the opportunities for organ certificates, both with NPM and AGO. And then last week we focused on the cantor certificates that NPM offers. And this week we're going to focus a little bit about piano certificates. So, Bill, if you don't mind, let me just kind of ask you a couple of questions about piano certificates.
Sure.
So, first off, if someone wanted to receive a piano certificate, where should they start?
Well, the first place to start always is at the NPM website, npm.org. And there is a tab there, I believe, that says something about certifications. And if you click on that on the left-hand side, you'll see piano certification. Click on that, and all of the directions are online, the application's online. Um, all of that good stuff that you need to know is online, as well as the rubrics, the kinds of music that you have to prepare, and what the committee is looking for. That should all be there online.
Okay, great. And I'll put that information as well in the description of this video if you're interested in that and you're watching. So let's start from the beginning. So, what is the basic piano certificate? Who is it geared towards?
Really, it's geared towards anyone, everyone, except if you're a ranked beginner piano player, but someone who's maybe been playing in their church already for a while, and wants to really focus on their ministry as a church pianist, as a ministerial pianist, and really look at some of the skills that are required for that and hone those skills. Somebody who just wants to get better at their craft and understand it better in terms of the liturgy.
Okay. How long do you think someone would need to prepare for the beginner piano certificate? Like if they wanted to decide today, how long do you think this should take to prepare?
Well, and of course that's, going to differ from person to person depending on their skill level. Um, but really, for the basic certification, I don't think there's a whole lot of work that's involved in preparing for it. For people that are already playing for church, you're probably doing many of these things already. So it's just a matter of looking at what you're doing and saying, am I really putting my best with this? Am I focusing on it? Am I giving the practice that I need to it? It's maybe just looking at what you're already doing and seeing how you can take that to the next level. But I don't think it's not going to be like getting a master's degree or 4 years of intensive study. It's nothing like that.
Okay. Okay. So we talked a little bit about the beginner piano certificate, but can we take a minute and dig into the intermediate piano certificate? Would you mind talking a little bit about that?
Sure, sure. So as the title implies, it's the next level after the basic. And there are a couple differences between the two. So in the basic, whereas you will have to play a traditional hymn on the piano, we want to see how you adapt that, maybe just like one verse through. And the intermediate, we ask you to play three verses, and we'd like you to vary the way that you play it depending on what the text says of each of those verses. So, and we leave that to you. We leave that to your imagination. With the psalm accompaniment in the basic, you're simply playing a psalm, a refrain, verse, and a refrain, and playing as if an assembly is singing, as if a cantor is singing. But with the intermediate, we ask, if at all possible, for you to pair up with a cantor. And what we did when we were in person is those pianists doing intermediate would actually pair up with a cantor that was going for cantor certification at the same convention. They could rehearse the psalm together and then do refrain, verse, refrain, so that we can see how the pianist interacts with the singer. And that sort of give and take, that collaboration. Then there are things like in the basic, you have to play the Eucharistic acclamations from a mass. We have a fairly good list of masses you can choose from on there. And instead of doing that on the intermediate, because you've already done it on basic, is now we have an improvisation section where we ask you to improvise for at least 8 bars on a standard song or standard hymn, like if communion had ended and you were to continue playing, while they were cleaning the altar or something like that. And then we ask you to do a little bit of sight reading. So we bring a basic level solo piano piece for you to sight read. And then we ask you to play a solo piece written for solo piano. Basic has that as well, but it can be on the basic level. With intermediate, we ask that it be at least an intermediate level solo that you will have prepared ahead of time. So those are kind of the differences between the two.
Okay, great. Now let's take those two things that we just talked about and let's just kind of chunk them through. So, in terms of the basic certificate, what are the things that people need to prepare? You've mentioned a couple different things. What are the things just kind of lined through?
Sure. A traditional hymn, a contemporary hymn that works well on piano, a responsorial psalm. And again, we have there's a list of psalms that you can choose from if you don't know where to start. Same with the hymns. And then we ask you to play some Eucharistic acclamations. So the Holy, Holy, the Mystery of Faith, and the Amen from a chosen Mass setting. And we have some of those listed.
Okay.
Those are the chunks of the basic.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. And then, of course, the prepared piece that they play at the end for solo piano.
Right. And those are given as well, right? Repertoire opportunities for that, or can they choose whatever they want for
Yeah,
that?
it's pretty wide open. We can make suggestions, and you'll be assigned a proctor, and that person is happy to make suggestions to you. But it's pretty wide open. And we've had
Okay.
lots of varied repertoire come in. It's been really cool to see.
Okay, great. Great. So that's the basic. What can we expect for the intermediate piano certificate?
Yeah. So, again, you're going to have to pick a traditional hymn, but be prepared to vary the verses. For instance, if someone were to pick "I Danced in the Morning," as the verses of the hymn go on, it sort of takes us through the life of Jesus to where in verse 4, he's hung up on the cross, and in verse 5, he's resurrected. So, for instance, how you would play verses 4 and 5 might be different to reflect the text. So, we want you to think about that sort of thing. And as I mentioned with the psalm, it's more in collaboration with the singer. Um, the contemporary song, we ask in the basic certification that you just sort of play something in a contemporary style. And the intermediate, we ask you to go the next step and maybe embellish it a little bit, add in some of your own pop embellishments or something that's appropriate to the piece. Right. So just that kind of thing. And then, as I mentioned, the sight reading and the those extra things. So kind of ups the ante a little bit.
Right, exactly. Now, do they have to get last week we talked in the cantor certificate about how the cantor steering committee requires that all cantors who want to receive the certificates, they all have to get the basic before they can move forward with any of the other certificates. Is that the same with piano?
It's a good question. We just started the intermediate at the last convention, well, in 2019 in Baltimore, and I don't remember if we had that come up yet because that's such a new one, the intermediate for us. That'll be something that we'll have to talk about in the piano steering committee.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, so let's say I want to apply for the basic pianist certificate. I have found my repertoire. I found the application. Is there a specific time of year that I have to apply to get the basic certificate? Like, what would the next steps be whenever I want to start?
Yeah, I don't remember, Amanda, if on the website there's a date, cutoff date that if it says, must be like a month before the convention or something like that. That I don't remember. Um, we on the steering committee don't have necessarily a timeline. Um, I know that we have had people apply up until just a couple days before the convention, and then we'll usually hear them during the convention. And some of those have come in pretty late. So I'm not familiar with that kind of a deadline.
Okay. Okay. But it sounds like right now you can currently apply in person at conventions. Is there any way to do it electronically yet?
To apply for the go
Yeah, I
through
guess
the
to like audition, I guess is what I meant.
yeah, and as a matter of fact, I believe on the website it talks about doing even remote auditions, especially now, where whichever city you're in, we try to assign a proctor who will, it's kind of like a notary public, if you want to think about it that way, musical notary. And then you can actually record yourself doing all the requirements in front of this proctor who will verify that, yes, you're the one that actually played and this is you and et cetera, et cetera. And then you can send all that stuff in, all your recordings. And we can do it that way because we still don't even know what's going to happen next summer at this point, so.
Yeah, that's really good to know though, because I don't know if Bill, I don't even know if I said this to you before we started recording, but one of the reasons that we're doing these Thursday thoughts is because we in the NPM office have had a sharp increase in inquiries for certification because
Hmm,
we think a lot of people have a little bit of extra time on their hands right
yeah.
now. And so it's good to know that if they wanted to, they could in fact do it virtually or remotely, I should say.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Okay,
that's good
great.
to hear, the uptick in people interested.
I know, we're very excited. Okay, so beginner or intermediate piano certificate, other than, of course, the challenge of, trying to hone your skills in and sharpen them, do you see any other professional benefits of having a certificate like these?
Well, I'll tell you what, the two biggest benefits that I see, in my opinion, number one, the benefit to the player, the person going through the certification, because it's like going to get a degree, but you're doing it for yourself primarily. It's what you're going to learn going through that process, and it's how much better you're going to become. Which to me means that your piano is going to be able to be more incorporated into the liturgical prayer. And what I mean by that is, I remember when I started out as a liturgical musician, I would always think, oh my gosh, but I've got to worry so much about playing and getting this music. And I always felt like I was disconnected from the prayer that was going on. And I know a lot of people out there can relate to this. And it took me a long time to finally get to a point where the piano playing became integral to my prayer and became part of it. It wasn't my prayer, my only prayer, but it became part of the whole liturgy. And that was able to happen through becoming much better at what I do, to where I'm not having to struggle with what I do so much, but it just became very organic. So I think there's that. Number one benefit is to the player. And number two, it's going to be to the assembly that you play for, because they are going to know the difference. They're not going to know that you have a paper that says certified. They're going to know when you spent time working on those skills, when you spent time becoming a better liturgical musician whose part of their prayer is through the instrument. And to me, those are the two biggest benefits. I don't know any dioceses yet where you can show them your NPM certification and they go, oh, we're going to add $10,000 to your salary. If it exists, I want to know about it. So somebody please tell us. Maybe we'll get to that point where dioceses will begin to recognize things like that better. But for now, I think that doesn't take us off the hook of being the best musicians that we can possibly be. And this is another part of that step of honing those skills that we then offer back to the communal prayer and back to our worship of God.
Yeah. Now, let
That
me
was a
ask.
lot of words. Sorry.
It's okay. Now, let me ask you this too. So the piano certificate, whether it's beginner or intermediate, do you see it benefiting someone who maybe, let's say, actually their primary instrument wasn't piano in the first place? And maybe they are a guitarist and they help at their folk mass or their contemporary mass, and they want to start in helping to lead in on a piano instead of a guitar. Do you think that they would be a good candidate for the beginner certificate?
Oh, absolutely. And that's a great point that you bring up too, for people who play other instruments who just want to sort of cross over.
Okay, great. All right. So, lastly, the intermediate piano certificate. So, I think I'm proud to share on Thursday Thoughts at 3 today that you guys have been working really hard on bringing the intermediate piano certificate to us. So, at this point, what can we say about the intermediate piano certificate in terms of like when can they get the application and when could they go after something like that?
Yeah, I believe that the application is not yet on the NPM website, but we'll work on getting that up. We did have a couple people in Baltimore. No, I'm sorry, not in Baltimore, in Raleigh. Boy, the years go on. Last year in Raleigh, we did have a couple intermediates. This was before it was widely publicized, but we had some people go through it. So if there are those people that want to try for that certification, we can do that now. I think you would just go through the steps online of contacting the piano committee and tell them that you're interested in intermediate, and we can take it from there. We'll be in conversation with you.
Okay, great, great. And I will echo that as the time of this recording and on this Thursday Thoughts at 3, we are still working on getting the intermediate piano certificate up on the website. but we will work to get it up, and we'll also advertise in our social media channels once it is. But I think our goal is November 1st. So it's only a few weeks from now.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's great.
so, are there any other final thoughts you would want to share with everyone who's on the Thursday Thoughts at 3 today?
Final thoughts. We do have an advanced piano certification as well that's in draft form. We're working on it right now, but that will be coming out just to give you a heads up. And for those people that have tested through the intermediate and want to go beyond, we are working on getting that up. And I think this is really exciting because piano can lend itself so well to worship, but there are things that fundamentally that we need to understand about the instrument itself and how it works and how it functions and how it works in conjunction with the human voice. And I think going through these certifications allows us to delve a little bit more into that. So we're not just thinking about the piano in isolation as this instrument that only does these things, but we really think of it as a more collaborative instrument, especially when it comes to collaborating with the human voice, which is the primary instrument, of course.
Right. Well, Bill, thank you for your work on the intermediate and advanced piano certificates and the entire piano steering committee, because I know that this work is hard and it takes a lot of hours that we never see. So, thank you for your work on these certificates.
You're welcome.
And thank you for your time today. Thank you for sitting with me where you told me before we started recording. This is where you teach, right? This is one of the places that you
Yes,
teach.
right here by my piano. So I can look at the students and play and sing to them, and we can learn music.
As we wrap up, why don't you share with the viewers how's your teaching been going on Zoom or in person?
Yes, to both of those. Yeah, it's been a challenge. I have been in conversation with many of my choral colleagues across the country since May, and on lots of different websites and lots of different reports and lots of different webinars. And so we're doing interesting things. I have my big choir divided up into small groups, and we rehearse outside under a tent, socially distanced with masks on. Yes, you can sing with a mask on, and it's been interesting. We've been doing some things online via Zoom and some things in person, spread out. In our concert hall, everybody 10 feet apart from each other. So far so good. We hope to continue to be safe and try to make music through this trying time.
And to those of you who don't know, Bill is located in Texas. So, you do you plan to be outside like through the winter months, or does it get too cold?
It's never too cold in Texas. Um, we do plan to be outside for a while. I mean, as I'm talking to you today, it's in the low 90s outside still. So yes, yeah, middle of October, and we're still in the low 90s. It's supposed to cool off next week, but cooling off for us means 70s and 80s. So yeah, so we'll probably be able to be outdoors pretty much all the way through the semester.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your tips on that too. It kind of makes me just want to move to Texas though, so that I can continue to sing outside because I live in the Northeast. So things are already starting to chill here. So,
Mm.
well, thank you again, Bill, for your time today. And for those of you who want to learn more about any of the piano certificates, check out the links below. And you can also go to npm.org/certificates dash and dash certification. Thank you so much for your time today, everyone.
Bye bye. Thank you.